From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, and I'm coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and around the world on the Internet via our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And joining me today, as she usually does on Thursdays, but yes, this is Friday, and well, we're making another little change here today. Joining me from the battle-born state of Nevada is my very good friend, Sharon Angle. Sharon, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thanks, Rick. As you know, it's always a pleasure to be on. And when you talk about battle-born, I know lots of people can identify with that more and more these days because it seems like we're always in some kind of battle for the Constitution.
Amen on that one, Sharon Angle. Amen on that one. Amen on that one. Well, Sharon Angle, I want to start out our show today with talking about an incident that happened not too far from our studios, right outside of Philadelphia in Darby, Pennsylvania. And we're going to be talking a little bit about guns, okay? Sharon, a mentally ill patient opened fire on a caseworker and a psychiatrist in Mercy Fitzgerald Hospital in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. This man had a long history of mental illnesses with several previous encounters with law enforcement officers. According to the police, this man, Richard Potts, 49, of Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, was reported in critical but stable condition Friday morning at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital. Potts, on Thursday afternoon, went to the hospital complex with his caseworker, Lisa Hunt of Philadelphia. And during a meeting with his doctor, Lee Silverman, Potts pulled a gun and began firing. He fatally shot and killed Hunt and struck Silverman with a graze wound, described as a graze wound, to the head. Dr. Silverman then retrieved his own weapon and shot Potts 3 times, disabling him. Donald Molilox, who's the chief of the Yeadon, Pennsylvania Police Department, has described Silverman as a hero and said that if Silverman returned fire and wounded Potts, he, quote, without a doubt saved lives and is a hero. So there you go, Sharon Angle. You get a mentally disturbed man, a man that police reports or police records in Philadelphia that Potts was arrested in 1990 for carrying a handgun without a permit and was sentenced to 6 months probation. And the following year, he was arrested after an incident with police where he had another illegal gun with bullets in it, got 2 years probation. He was later sentenced to 80 months in a federal prison for robbing a bank in Delaware, and twice was returned to prison for violating his terms of release. So there you go, Sharon Angle. Number one, this man...
What you're telling me, Rick Trader, what you're telling me is gun control laws don't work because they don't apply to criminals.
There you go. There you go, Sharon Angle. They don't apply to criminals. They don't apply to the criminally insane. This man had been arrested previously on gun violation charges, and now he has another gun. He goes into a psychiatrist's office, kills his caseworker, shoots the doctor. The doctor was able to get a hold of his gun, and thank God, Sharon, the doctor had a gun in his office to shoot this guy 3 times. I know, Sharon Engel, that he would have went out into the hall and probably shot other people. It would have been big news about another mass shooting by another crazed gunman, but instead, very little is being talked about the hero doctor who had a gun, who had a weapon, who was able to protect himself, who was able to defend himself, who was able to stop other people from being hurt by this madman.
Well, and that's exactly why we don't need more gun-free zones, because it just sets up places to be attacked. I would like to see legislation that would allow teachers to carry, because we know that these shooters in schools have faced off with unarmed teachers and principals trying to protect children. Mm-hmm. How can they do that if they, what's that old saying? Don't take a knife to a gunfight. Well, don't take a chalkboard eraser to a gunfight either. It's just ludicrous what is happening in our country. We've had this kind of shooting in Reno, Nevada, in fact, where a fellow went into a urologist's office unhappy with a urology surgery that he had done that turned bad and shot his urologist to death. Right, and no one was there to be able to stop this guy. They just waited till he killed himself. It's what happened. He shot a few people and then killed himself. So he was the one that ended the violence that he started, rather than someone else being able to save some lives.
Well, Sharon, have you ever noticed, and we've talked about it before in this show, how all these mass shootings take place in gun-free zones? And why do they happen in gun-free zones? Because these perpetrators know that they're going in there with a gun and that they're the only ones that are going to have a gun in there. And no one is going to be shooting at them. It's just ridiculous. So here you got, Sharon, this guy who's mentally deranged, had been convicted of other gun charges and got probation, robbed a bank, okay, and I would like to criticize the courts and say the courts should be doing more with people like this. Criminals need to be in jail, Sharon Engel. You can't...
Well, not only that, Rick Trader, but consider this. All of the laws that they have passed to protect us, this fellow broke every one of them. The only people that those laws really restrict are law-abiding citizens. That's the only people that really get restricted by this, and we then have to suffer the consequences because of the restrictions. This fellow obviously didn't go get a CCW, did not register his weapon, did not go through the background checks that we all have to go through, did not pay the NICS check fee, which is really a tax on your gun, did not do any of those things. And we're saying that those gun control laws that we have to sit under every day are what's going to stop crime? I don't think so.
According to Michael Chitwood of the Upper Darby Police, Upper Darby Police Superintendent, Potts was involuntarily committed in 2007 and in 2013 and another time in 2012, detained after threatening to kill himself. Get this, Sharon Engel. You talk about the courts and the police and knowing that the police also should share responsibility in this because they don't know who out there is a threat to our society. Chitwood said his department has also opened an investigation into the death of Potts's mentally ill neighbor who pots found in 2011. So, Sharon, there you go. Police aren't doing the... Instead of doing real police work, what are the police out there doing? Traffic patrol. Looking for a 17-year-old kid with an expired inspection sticker. Hey, Sharon, we're going to take a break. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Sharon and I will be right back.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Our view for conservative values and issues, take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Schrader. And program note, if you'd like to hear a repeat broadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening Eastern Time, log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 5 p.m. this evening when our live broadcast ends, log on to cprworldwidemedia.com and click on that Listen Live link. And don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. So, Sharon Engel, before we get into anything else, why don't we go over the list of guests for today?
Sure. We have Marlo Lewis, who's the Senior Fellow for the Competitive Enterprise Institute. He's going to be talking about the solar thermal hazard for pilots. Now, this is of particular interest to me because the place where the pilots are complaining is Las Vegas. And guess what? Good old Harry Reid. In fact, that's very tongue-in-cheek sarcasm there because we all know that Harry Reid is a true villain, has another solar array going in at taxpayer expense. These solar fields, these solar farms are not built by private money. They can't sustain themselves without taxpayer subsidies. And the Obama administration, led by Harry Reid through the Senate, has procured our taxpayer dollars to pay for these solar farms in southern Nevada. And Harry Reid wants to contract with the Chinese now to build another solar farm right there in Las Vegas. And the pilots that are going into McCarran International Airport are saying, wait a second, these cause hazards for us flying into these airports. So I'm really interested in talking with Marlo Lewis about that. Our second guest is Derek Green, who is with Project 21. He is also going to Fuller Theological Seminary to get his master's in theology. But today he's going to be talking about a message to President Obama that should carry over into those leaders in Central America and also the parents of the children that are coming up through Central America and Mexico to our borders. And the message is, plug our porous border and swiftly process and deport those here against the law. So we'll see what Derek has to say about that, because we've been screaming for years, secure the border, secure the border. We don't want to talk about anything else until you've closed that border. Mm-hmm. And it's still not done. In fact, we know that that was what Ronald Reagan wanted to do way back in 86, I believe, was when he was wanting to do this, and they said, oh, well, let's do amnesty first. Well, we see where that got us, so it's always been, since that time, secure those borders. So I'm interested in hearing from Derek about that.
Okay, and I'm going to be speaking with Dan Joseph. Dan is a staff correspondent and producer for MRC TV, and he goes out on a regular basis to do something that I wish I had time or patience to do, and that's to do the man-on-the-street interviews. And Dan's latest, or one of Dan's latest, is a video that's up on MRC TV. It's an anti-Israel protest, and people are calling the USA the biggest terrorist in the nation. That's these people at this protest that's outside the Christians United for Israel convention that was held in Washington. So it's going to be great to speak with Dan Joseph. So Sharon Engel, what's on your radar screen this day, my friend?
Well, all this week, I've been in Vacation Bible School with my 4 grandsons. We've been doing what we do every summer, just opening our church up to all the children that live around the church. We've had crafts and recreation and singing and Bible study for the kids here. And I'm always amazed at how eager to learn young children are, and especially how eager they are to meet the Savior. And yet, more, Rick, I know you're as concerned as I am. Our First Amendment right to freedom of religion is just being assaulted in this country. How much longer will we be able to just freely invite kids to come in and learn? How much longer? It's frightening. And, of course, the things that are happening with Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A, with the military, it just goes on and on. The persecution in this country of Christians.
Well, Sharon, you know what I want to say to these seculars, these people who are anti-religion, anti-Christ, anti-Judaism? Watch out. Be careful what you ask for, because you may get a world that you want to create, which is not going to be a very nice world, Sharon Engel, which is going to be a world full of mentally ill patients going in to see their doctor with a gun.
Well, it is frightening to see where we're headed. And some of the laws that have come to be just because we have drifted so far away from our moral foundations in this country. Consider what's going on in California right now. They're being pressured and have been pressured to pass laws now that allow for a boy to decide he's a girl today or vice versa. And because he's made that decision today, he goes into the girls' locker room and showers with them. Mm-hmm. It's just incredible what's going on in California, and yet other states are starting to follow suit.
Yeah, one of those crackpot states, Sharon, is the state of New Jersey, okay? You know, out in California, they passed a law forbidding parents, psychologists, or psychiatrists to counsel people who are questioning their sexuality, okay? And the state of California passed a law forbidding that to happen, and so has the state of New Jersey. So if you're a parent, if you have a troubled child, if your child is saying, gee, I don't know if I'm a boy or a girl, you can't get that child help. It's against the law. It's against the law here in the state of New Jersey. It's against the law in the state of California. That's how these crackpot officials think today, Sharon Engel. That's how these liberals and these seculars think. And again,
if we're not careful, we're going to get more of the same, because in Alaska, we have a fellow who's running for the U.S. Senate up there. His name is Meade Treadwell. He's the lieutenant governor.
And Sharon, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm sorry to interrupt, Sharon. We are up against our break. And you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. By the way, today's show, like all our shows, is brought to you by the First Amendment, and it is protected by the Second, and that's real important. We'll be right back.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Our view for conservative values and issues, take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers. "9/11. It's a day that will go down in our history as the most horrific and destructive scene ever to happen on American soil. It will also be, for most Americans who witnessed it either up close or simply watched in horror on TV, America, to participate in a national memorial I call the United Action of Prayer this coming 9/11 and every 9/11 from then on. United Action of Prayer is simply every American stopping whatever they are doing for 1 minute at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or pray in memory for the 9/11 victims and their families, and perhaps a prayer of gratitude for living in a country where even 9/11 could not at all weaken the spirit of our great nation. If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. "Give us freedom" was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Bonnier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the The Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. And Sharon, we do have our first guest of the day on the line with us. Will you please make the introduction?
Lewis Jr. is a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, where he writes on global warming, energy policy, and other public policy issues. Prior to joining CEI, he served as the Director of External Relations at the Reason Foundation in Los Angeles, California. During the 106th Congress, Marlowe served as Staff Director of the House Government Reform Subcommittee on National Economic Growth, Natural Resources, and Regulatory Affairs. Marlowe, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hey, Sharon. Nice to be with you.
Well, it's
nice
great
to have two commanders with me.
It's great to have you. We've been reading an article that you wrote, Solar Thermal Hazard to Pilots. Now, this is very concerning to me because I probably fly into the Las Vegas airport, McCarran International, more than any other airport in the United States. Tell me what's going on there.
Well, this was kind of developed as from a trip that I took. I went to Las Vegas for Freedom Fest, which was the gathering of libertarians in I think it was the end of it was early July, and also for the Heartland Institute's climate conference. They were sort of back to back, these two conferences in Las Vegas. So driving to Las Vegas, my family and I noticed these three very large towers with some kind of strange patterning of the ground for what seemed like miles around them. But this was toward the end of the day, and we couldn't figure out what this thing was. But then coming back, we were driving back in the height of the noonday sun, and we were dazzled by the light, not quite blinded by it, but you really couldn't look at these things for any length of time without seeing spots before your eyes, and we were thousands of yards away from it. So I went to Google and looked it up. We knew roughly where we were, and it's the Ivanpah Solar Electric Power Station. And what it is are three large towers. Each one is 459 feet tall, and then on the top of them is a large rectangular object that's called the receiver or the collector. And surrounding each of these three towers is, I've seen different estimates, but I've seen one that each tower has around it on the ground 170,000 gigantic mirrors. These are mirrors much taller than a human being, and they collect sunlight and focus it on the big rectangles sitting on top of the towers where water is boiled, and that then creates steam, which generates electricity. So, I mean, this really did look like something out of a science fiction movie, because as you're driving by, what you see are, what it looks like are just thousands of energy beams, all focused on these big rectangles that are so bright that it's like looking at the headlights with the brights on at night. Anyway, so I started to do a little research about it, and one of the things I found out is that the temperature in the solar flux fields around the collectors gets up to about 800 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe even 1,000 degrees, and anything that flies into it gets zapped. So, and it's so bright, it's brighter than the sky at the noonday sun, that it attracts a lot of insects, which then attract a lot of insect-eating birds, which then attract birds of prey. So a lot of birds are getting killed by this so-called green energy source. Then, a little later, I read another article which was about a Fish and Wildlife Service report. So it's an official government report finding that, lo and behold, when you have 170,000 mirrors, around one of these towers, and they're reflecting sunlight back up into the air, it can cause pilots to see spots and have after images. and can make it very difficult for a pilot to spot on the spur of the moment another aircraft that is within the vicinity. And as you point out, McCarran is a big international airport. About 120 planes land and take off from McCarran every day, and that's just the big commercial planes. There are all kinds of smaller private planes. So the bottom line here, this thing is a hazard to avians and to aviation.
Well, on the website, and I want you to get that website to us, you have pictures of this so people can kind of see for themselves.
Tell the story better than I can. Yeah, the website is globalwarming.org. Just globalwarming, one word, .org. And so I have an article up there from July 21st. It's called Solar Thermal Hazard for Pilots, and it's got some great pictures. And then I have another one from July 14th called Solar Thermal Electric Generation, Still Not Cheap, Not Green, because the taxpayers, are on the hook for $1.6 billion for this facility, just like the same pot of money that gave us the Solyndra debacle was also used to fund this program. And so it's not cheap. It probably never would have been built, but for this solar loan, but for this federal loan guarantee. And because the total facility costs $2.2 billion. And it has this, enormous capacity to incinerate anything that flies within this solar flux field, which is pretty enormous. It's a big area. It's again 3 towers spread out over 5 square miles, 459 feet tall each, and in the vicinity of each one, the temperature can get up to about 800 to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and the very brightness of the thing attracts food that birds pursue in midair. And so there are grisly pictures of burned and singed birds on these 2 websites of mine, as well as some really spooky-looking photographs of these towers. I know when I discussed this with one previous radio host, he said, "Oh yes, it looks like the eye wreathed in flame in the movie The Two Towers." But I wouldn't say they're evil towers, but they certainly are sinister looking.
And this isn't the only one. We've been hearing how Harry Reid is going to put in another one. Can you tell us about the one that he's contracting Chinese contractors to put in on near his land and on land that he owns? These are land deals that Harry Reid is doing on the backs of taxpayer dollars, as you said, for this solar energy stuff. Are you planning on some follow-up articles that will connect the dots between Harry Reid and these debacles?
Yes, that's a great suggestion, and I will likely do that. I haven't read much about that, except that facility, I believe, is supposed to be even bigger than this one. In other words, it will generate even more megawatts and probably cost more. But I haven't really done any digging into that one yet.
Well, it's also one of those things where it's close to that airport, too. I think it's going to be within 30 miles of that airport. And you say that ironically, the PAH in Nevada is Paiute for water. So interesting.
Yeah,
so we have Ivan Water is what that's really talking about. But anyway, what you're saying is that we're going to have another one of those right there next to that airport.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's going to happen. Now, this facility was held up for years, as you may know, Sharon, because this whole area is part of the habitat for the threatened Mojave Desert tortoise. And the tortoises, so basically they had to relocate thousands of tortoises because the tortoises burrow into the ground. That they had to install these hundreds of thousands of mirrors and the mirror motorized devices on. So apparently they've done a good job with that. If you gather up all the tortoises and then put them in a private conservation program, you can actually, help, rebuild the population of a species. Because I've been reading about a little bit. The average one of these tortoises in the wild, only 2% of them survive after they hatch. It's just like those sea tortoises that.
Hey, Marlo, this is Rick Trader. I want to break in because we only have a few minutes more with you.
Oh, sure, okay.
And big question.
Birds are not safe. The tortoises may be safe. That's the only point I was going to make. It's not green because it kills birds.
Well, you spent all this time. The big question is, how much money did you leave there?
Well, not including whatever hotel fees or hotel expenses we had. Only $3. My son, my wife, and I each decided we were going to play the slot machines, and we would limit ourselves to $1 each.
Okay.
If we lost $1, that was it. So.
Well, those. What you actually saw out there in Las Vegas, that bright light. Well, that was, as you mentioned in your article, about over $1.5 billion taxpayer dollars that were burning out there in the desert, Marlo. And, the other thing that I wanted to say about this is also in your article, you mentioned that about the cost of, let me find it here. Okay, the Energy Information Administration last year assessed, finding that capital cost of the solar systems, that electric generation is nearly 5 times what new advanced combined natural gas generation is. 5 times. So that's more taxpayer money burning out there in the desert, Marlo. But the good news is the green jobs that project is creating. And Marlo, just before those birds die,
right,
they poop on these mirrors, which creates green jobs for people that have to go clean those mirrors. So this is good news.
Yeah, that's right. It's just like caulking windows, and I guess there are bureaucratic jobs that are created to administer the program from Sacramento, California. Well, it's exactly true what you say. I mean, my question was, why did they need to do this? I mean, natural gas combined cycle is a very low emission technology, and it doesn't kill birds.
Well, that would be a question.
And you wouldn't have to build it in the desert in an area that had already been zoned for habitat protection. So anyway, I looked it up, and as you point out, per kilowatt hour, in other words, per unit of energy produced, these solar thermal plants cost about 5 times as much as what people are putting their money into in the free market.
Marlo, before we let you go, do you have time to answer this question about Bright Source Energy and all the money they spent in lobbying? Marlo Lewis, if this was such a great idea, why did they have to spend $500 million on lobbying to get this thing?
Oh, well, yeah, I hope I didn't say 500 million. If I did, that was a...
I'm sorry, I misread. 500,000.
Okay, yeah, 500,000. But that's a lot of money on lobbying. Yeah, in order to get this loan of $1.6 billion, they spent $500,000 on lobbying. Now, that's a lot of money to lobby.
Yeah, but it's a good investment
for any one project. But look at the rate of return.
Sure, that's a great investment. If you spend $500,000 lobbying, get $1.5 billion, where can I get in that line?
I know, exactly. So, political capitalism really pays. It's a crony. Some people call it crony capitalism. But anyway, so when I prefer to call it venture socialism. When government gets into the venture socialism business, some private interests get really rich, but the taxpayer and the ratepayer gets taken to the cleaners.
Marlo Lewis, Senior Fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, we want to thank you so much. And once again, give out the website where people can read your articles.
Yes, globalwarming.org, and I thank you both very much.
And I thank you. And next time, please come on when you could stay a little longer. We always love talking with you.
Okay, right. I would love to.
Take care. God bless.
Okay.
Going to take a break right now. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners. Don't forget you can now hear our show anytime from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Sharon and I will be right back.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Our view for conservative values and issues take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening Eastern Time, log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us, vigilantlibertyradio.us. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 5 p.m. this evening, that's right when we go off the air with our live program, log on to cprworldwidemedia.com and click on that Listen Live link. Don't forget you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Sharon, just before we had Marlo Lewis on, actually before the break, before we had Marlo on, you wanted to let our listeners know about what the lieutenant governor, who is a candidate for U.S. Senate in Alaska, wanted to do.
Well, it's not that he just wanted to do it. He has done it. And the ACLU in Alaska has given him kudos for it. They said, we appreciate the work of the Department of Motor Vehicles and the Lieutenant Governor's Office in crafting a regulation that recognizes the importance and legitimate needs of transgender Alaskans. And what the new rule says is that without surgery, without any kind of change on the person's part, they may choose whichever gender they want to have on their driver's license. So to me, that just creates havoc for law enforcement. You pull somebody over, he hands you a driver's license that says he's a woman. You look at the picture, you look at the guy, and you say, who is this? What are we talking about here? You know? It's just amazing what's going on in Alaska, and that a Republican lieutenant governor would be party to this.
Well, it begs the question, Sharon, let's say on my license I'm a male, and I get a speeding ticket, but by the time I go to court, I change my license to reflect that I'm a female by the name of Rachel or something. And I go to court, I go, Your Honor, that's not me. That was a guy he stopped. I'm a female.
Yeah,
Makes
like I said, it just causes all kinds of havoc.
And this guy's running.
As identity goes.
And this guy's running for Senate.
He's running for U.S. Senate. So, you know, before we talked with Marlo, we were talking about the problems that are going on in California, and you said in New Jersey. Well, this is just add one more. But, you know, we think of these things as being the territory of the liberals, the Democrats. But here we've got Republicans running for U.S. Senate who are embracing this stuff and getting accolades from the ACLU. Another one of these guys that's running in Alaska, he's the Attorney General.
Sharon, I hate to do this to you again.
You're gonna
Another break.
Cut me off.
Well, we'll pick that up in a little bit, all right? And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Angle and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 in Philly and around the world on the internet, with our internet broadcast partner, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199 and check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioShow.com and CCRShow.com. Don't go away. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Derek Green from Project 21.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos Radio Show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Our view for conservative values and issues. Take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
At 9/11, it's a day that will go down in our history as the most horrific and destructive scene ever to happen on American soil. It will also be, for most Americans who witnessed it either up close or simply watched in horror on TV, America, to participate in a national memorial I call the United Action of Prayer this coming 9/11 and every 9/11 from then on. United Action of Prayer is simply every American stopping whatever they are doing for 1 minute at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or pray in memory for the 9/11 victims and their families, and perhaps a prayer of gratitude for living in a country where even 9/11 could not at all weaken the spirit of our great nation.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening Eastern Time, log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And for rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. this afternoon, log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. Click on that Listen Live link. Sharon, we do have our next guest with us. Please make the introduction.
Yes, our next guest is Derek Green. He has a Master's of Art degree in Theological Studies from Fuller Theological Seminary and is currently pursuing his doctorate in ministry. Derek is also a member of Project 21 and the leading voice of Black conservatives. Derek, welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
It's our pleasure always, Derek. And you have an issue here that we've been watching come over our borders for the last month or so. And you've, at Project 21, you've asked the president to do something. Would you talk about what you're doing, what you think the solution is here?
Well, the solution is complex, obviously, but one of the things that Project 21 is doing is trying to educate the population and kind of get involved to let our elected leaders know, whether it's the president or elected members of Congress, that part of the issue with the so-called humanitarian crisis of unaccompanied minors coming over the border is that our border is just too porous. And so if he's serious about getting this under control, if the elected members of Congress are serious about getting this issue under control, then one of the primary things that they need to do is to seal the border, where they have to increase funds, increase the number of Border Patrol agents, immigration judges, and so forth. They need to increase the numbers of those people, because with the porous border, we're seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of people coming from Central America. What's to stop people from Southern America from coming in, or people from nations that are not so friendly to the United States, like Middle Eastern countries coming over and taking advantage of such a porous border, putting the United States population at considerable risk? So we recognize that it is a crisis. I think many of us may be in agreement that it was a manufactured crisis by years of inaction by elected members of Congress and the president himself, on top of unilateral decisions that this current president has made. But we need to address the situation in a serious and sincere manner to stem the tide of unaccompanied minors.
Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about Project 21. Why do you think your demand for secure borders is going to make an impression on this president when previous presidents, even to this one, have seemed to turn a deaf ear and actually have been going the opposite direction? We need amnesty for these folks, not deportation. Tell me how this works from your perspective.
From our perspective, I think that it's pretty clear that this president has no intentions of increasing the border security. So what we're trying to do, and I think we're seeing it happen alongside of us in the country at large, is that everyday normal citizens like you and I are just getting fed up, and they're making their voices heard, and they're making their actions seen. And so I think with the type of public pressure that we can help put on the elected members of Congress, they can try to force the president into some sort of compromise. He's not going to do anything that's going to be beneficial for the country as a whole unilaterally. He will only do what's good for his political party and what serves his political ideology unilaterally. But what he needs to do, and what people need to do, is to pressure their elected representatives to say, listen, you people are apathetic to what's going on in the country because you people live in a Washington bubble. You guys leave Congress and you leave the White House, and you guys live in secluded bubbles. You don't have to deal with the increase of these illegals in your day-to-day life. So we're trying to help put pressure on the elected leaders to say, hey, listen, this is going to affect us, and if you don't think it's going to affect us, then come election time, the people in the representative specific districts will possibly vote their their elected representatives out. But this is a pressing issue that needs to be addressed yesterday.
Do you think it's a pressing issue in the black community? And the reason I'm asking that is because this president seems to take advantage of his blackness, if you will. He seems to pull that race card at every opportunity. Is he giving us away, or is he giving Project 21 away in order to call his race card, if you will, and say, wait a second, we're just as upset about this as every other American? Talk to me about that part of what you're doing at Project 21.
Well, I think that this particular issue affects us all regardless of color, but specifically to the black community, I would respectfully say that you can remove the seam out of your statement. I think the president has used his blackness as a shield. I think he's used it to his advantage for up to this point in his presidency. And I think the way that this issue directly affects the black community is that the influx of people coming in a situation where employers may want to have low-paid, low-skilled work, so they can pay people under the table, so they don't have to pay the minimum wage, because the minimum wage obviously is going to say that these people aren't qualified. The minimum wage isn't going to be commensurate with their work skills. So with the influx of illegal aliens, they're going to compete with low-skilled, low-wage jobs. Unfortunately, a lot of those jobs could and should be filled by members of the black community, because, again, as unfortunate as it is, black Americans are subjected to substandard education. Black Americans have had sustained levels of high unemployment in the black community under Barack Obama. So when you couple an inability to get into the workforce with substandard education, it increases the amount of people who are out of work. When you bring in a bunch of people who have even lower skills, who may not even speak English that well, able and willing to do the work that blacks should be doing and should want to do and should want to get in if we had a growing economy, when you bring these type of people in, it undercuts the black community. And so I think that's an economic way, that's how it negatively affects black America. Another way it negatively affects black America is in the education system. As I said, since blacks are subjected to substandard education, if we introduce thousands upon thousands of illegal immigrant children who can't speak English into these very same schools, the education goes from substandard to extremely, extremely poor, because now the teachers have to take time to go through bilingual education, and their resources are going to be strained to try to get some of these students who are coming in illegally up to, I guess, a median average of the class. And so it takes resources and time away and attention away from these black students in the inner cities. And so I think that it negatively affects, again, as I said at the beginning, Americans as a whole, regardless of your color or ethnic orientation, but it definitely is going to extremely negatively affect black America.
Derek, I think let's just take the word black out of the sentence. It's going to be bad for America, period. I don't care if someone is black or white. Derek, the poor in this country will be hurt more than anyone with increased migration from poor countries. You mentioned schools. You mentioned jobs. But let's also talk about medical care. These people coming here are going to be an additional drain on our medical system. These people coming here from other countries are going to demand to see the same doctors that the rest of us have to see. Derek, there are only so many doctors that we have now. We're losing doctors. And the doctors that these people, these illegal immigrants, are going to be seeing are the same doctors that the poor are going to be expecting to see. But they're not going to be there, Derek. The appointments won't be available.
The appointments won't be available, and as you alluded, rightly so, the resources aren't going to be available. So now, again, just like you said, we're going to introduce thousands upon thousands of illegal immigrants into the healthcare system in which they're not going to pay into. That's going to add to the already rising premiums surrounding Obamacare. That directly hits people not only in their wallets, where a lot of us are sensitive to, but it directly affects our well-being. If we cannot get into the doctor's office and again, go to any emergency room in almost any hospital across the country, and it's treated like a glorified doctor's office because there are an influx of people, illegal immigrants primarily, who are using the resources that they're not paying into. So now, how are we going to afford to pay for this? We cannot continue to print money. The only other option is to pay higher premiums and to raise taxes, and that's a further burden, again, on an already depressed economy. That doesn't make any sense.
All right, Derek, we got to take a break. Could you please hold through that break? Just 2 minutes. All right, we are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, and around the world on the internet. Please check out our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com and ccrshow.com. Our guest this segment is Derek Green from Project 21. We're talking about immigration, and on the other side, maybe we'll get into House immigration proposal, maybe a step in the right direction. Please don't go away. Sharon and I will be right back with our guest, Derek Green.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm lefty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. Coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station, and around the world on the internet. Our guest this segment is Derek Green. Derek is a member of Project 21, a leading voice of black conservatives. Derek, thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
No problem.
Derek, just before we went to the break, you were talking about how the poor are using emergency rooms for primary care. And I wanted to tell you a little bit of story about that. Several years ago, while my mother was still living, she had a heart condition, and I had to take her to the emergency room. While I was waiting for my mother to be treated, a young girl came in there with her mother. Her mother spoke no English. They had no money. They had no medical care. And what they were there for, Derek, is this girl, who was about 15 or 16, was there for laryngitis. She was at an emergency room for laryngitis, Derek. Now, the long end of that story is this hospital which was in an area that had a large population of poor Hispanic people, that hospital had to close its doors, went bankrupt. So therefore, this community does not have a hospital now. The nearest hospital is about 15 miles away. So that's what happens when you get a lot of people, a lot of poor people who come here with no money, no insurance, no medical care, and they rely on the hospitals for primary care. Hey, Sharon, the Republicans, Barack Obama has his proposal to spend $3.7 billion. I don't know what he wants to spend this money for, but he wants to spend $3 million taxpayer dollars to manage the humanitarian crisis he created on our southern borders. The Republicans, I don't know that they're that much better. Maybe they are, but they want to spend $1.5 billion, Sharon Engel. If you were in the U.S. Senate, how much would you want to spend?
Well, I want to get Derek's take on this, too, of course, but my take is, and the American public's take is, that these kinds of shenanigans by the Republican Party is just Democrat light. We can't see the difference. We don't want them to spend these billions of dollars making advertisements. What we want is secure borders, and neither one of those things gets there. And as long as we don't have secure borders, why are we talking about anything else? I don't know. Derek, what do you think?
I'm torn. I think that the GOP bill is probably a very small step in the right direction, and I know that they are trying to hedge their bets what they should offer up because they know that it's going to be dissected in the Senate. So I understand what they're trying to do, but at the same time, this is a problem that deserves a lot more than just mere lip service or the appearance of doing something or looking busy when not really accomplishing much at all. I agree with you. Unless this bill is going to be very heavy with increasing the amount of money that goes to the border so we can secure the border patrol agents, better training, things of that nature, then, again, the money is just simply going to, on either side, possibly manage the problem for several more months, at which point tens of thousands of more unaccompanied quote-unquote minors will be able to filter into the country. So I don't know if it's kicking the can down the road. I don't know if they're sincere about it, but I know there's a lot of different obstacles that they have to negotiate by trying to offer up a bill.
Well, don't you think that it's kind of irritating that the Democrats propose something, and instead of the Republicans saying, we don't even want to talk about that, we want to talk about secure borders, they offer up a bill that is just talking about that same issue. I guess that's what's so irritating. And in your statement, you said that Project 21 wants them to plug our porous border and swiftly process and deport those here against the law. How does this accomplish that mission, Derek?
And that's the thing, is that it's a minor step. I don't think that they, to be honest with you, I like the Democrat light moniker description, because I think that's what they are. I don't think that it addresses the problems at the root. I think it's a step in the right direction, and I hate to keep saying that, but they have to be conscious of what that bill will come out of the Senate looking like. And so, but at the same time, we need to have courageous and confident people, particularly conservatives, that are standing up and out and saying, listen, part of the reason that we have this problem, aside from the president working unilaterally, is that our borders are just too easy to come into. Our system, the way of life that we've created in America, that's been beneficial to millions upon millions over several generations, is being taken advantage of. And so we need to kind of correct those problems at the root, and that starts with a secure border. Until they get serious with that, until they start pushing that, again, this problem, they can stymie the problem. Maybe we won't have 12,000 kids coming every week. Maybe we might have 7, but it's a step in the right direction. But again, we need courageous and confident lawmakers that are willing to say, we need to close the borders. It's not about racism. It's not about this or that. It's about national security. It's about the safety of the American public. And so we have to do what's right for us, because not only can we not afford it from a safety issue or a health issue, but we cannot afford it from an economic issue.
Hey, Derek, something that you wrote in this press release coming from the National Center for Public Policy Research is something I think people need to know about. And you write, Amnesty advocates claim illegal immigration workers contribute to our economy, that the current crisis presents an entirely different situation that turns that claim on its head. Derek, there was you're right, by the way, when you say that. There was a study done by the Heritage Foundation that claimed that amnesty would cost our government $6 trillion over the next 10 years. So I don't know how that's adding to our economy, Derek. And, the other thing, Derek, you talk about secure borders. Can we have a secure border unless we also depend on Mexico to help us secure that border? And that maybe it's time, Derek Green, and I want to get your opinion on this, that we put pressure on Mexico to do their part on their side. Maybe we need to stop travel, trade, tourism, and foreign aid going into Mexico till they do their part.
I would agree with that. I think that it's not just Mexico. I think the other countries, whether it's Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, wherever these people are coming from, we need to put pressure on their government as well. Because from my understanding, Mexico has the army on their southern border, but yet and still these children are coming through Mexico, get to the United States, which means they're working in collusion with these other countries and their own army to get them here. You're right. We do need to put a lot of pressure on the Mexican governments, and to say, you not only are you allowing these people to come into our country, but people who immigrate from your country alone send several $billions to your economy back home every year. If you do not stop that, we will put a stop to that, and they have to get serious. But again, do you see anybody, whether it's the president on down, who's serious about this, who's taking a step and saying these things loudly, consistently, to say that we need to put pressure on these other countries and we need to stop the border, maybe put the army at the border? Is anybody saying that loudly and consistently enough?
Well, there are a couple of people, but the problem, Derek, is there are only a few. There's Congressman Paul Brown, there's Congressman Louis Gohmert, there's Congressman Steve Stockman, there's Congressman Stephen King. But, Derek, they're too far and few in between.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, Derek,
exactly
we're coming up on our hard break. Please let our listeners know where they could find out more about Project 21, the National Center for Public Policy Research, and follow your work.
They can go to nationalcenter.org, and they can also go to project21.org, and they can see the list of members of Project 21, a growing list of Black conservatives who are trying to make the case for conservative principles, not only in the blog at National Center, but also through commentaries and press releases like you have in front of you.
Derek Green, I want to thank you for joining us. Always a great pleasure to talk with you, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. God bless. All right, we are going to go to a break. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, around the world on the internet. Don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night by calling 832-999-1199. Sharon and I will be right back with our next guest, Dan Joseph.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos Radio Show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime. studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Our view for conservative values and issues. Take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
– 9/11. It's a day that will go down in our history as the most horrific and destructive scene ever to happen on American soil. It will also be, for most Americans who witnessed it either up close or simply watched in horror on TV, America, to participate in a national memorial I call the United Action of Prayer this coming 9/11 and every 9/11 from then on. United Action of Prayer is simply every American stopping whatever they are doing for 1 minute at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or pray in memory for the 9/11 victims and their families, and perhaps a prayer of gratitude for living in a country where even 9/11 could not at all weaken the spirit of our great nation.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Tom Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, and for a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening, log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. That's vigilantlibertyradio.us. And at 5 p.m. in about a little less than a half an hour when our live broadcast ends, if you'd like to hear a repeat of yesterday's show, log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. Don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Conservative Commandos Radio Show is getting out there in all kinds of ways. Our next guest is Dan Joseph. Dan is a staff correspondent and producer for MRC TV, and he regularly does something that I wish I had the time and the patience to do, and that's to go out on the street, do man-on-man interviews with absolutely absurd people. Dan Joseph, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hey, Rick, thank you so much for having me on.
Great to have you back with us, Dan. Dan, I've seen you do a lot of these videos with some, as I call them, absurd people. You know, when it was 0 degrees out there, you were out there talking to people and liberals, and they were defending this idea of man-made global warming. I've seen you do interviews of people defending Barack Obama and the left. But, Dan, what is it about your job that you like most?
Oh, wow. I mean, it's really great. First of all, there's 3 different kinds of things we usually do. There's the man on the street stuff, where we just go and ask the everyday person, usually a tourist somewhere in the National Mall, what they know or what their opinion is on current events in national politics. That's always fun, but, you'll really talk to the real crazy when you do that. The other thing we do is petition videos. Sometimes we go on college campuses and we get people to sign some insane petition. Like, for one time, we went out and got them to sign a petition to legalize 4th trimester abortion, which, of course, is, after the baby is born, that would be basically murdering them. We got about 14 people to sign that on a college campus. But the one I like the most are the protests, because especially the liberal protests, usually those are the ones we go to, you will find the nuttiest of the nutty there. Not only are they liberals, they are the far, far left fringe liberals. And my goal when I go there, and what I try to challenge myself to do, is to get them off their talking points. Because usually they'll just repeat what the talking points are, what they hear on the news, what they hear from politicians. But if you can get in there, ask the right questions, or get them riled up enough, you can actually get them to say what they really think. And that's my favorite part of the job, is when you can get below the surface and get these people to actually expose themselves for what they want and the way they really view society.
Well, Dan, one of the things that I think you do, you pinpoint and show that some people should not be allowed to vote, in my opinion. But, Dan, we wanted to talk with you today about one of your latest videos. It was at an anti-Israel protest rally, and some of these people actually had the audacity to say that the USA is the biggest terrorist organization in the world. Dan, tell us about your latest video.
Well, look, this was. I'm so glad it's the weekend, because I talked to so many crazy people at that protest that I need some time to rest and get my brain straight again. Basically, this was.
And you come to us?
Well, yeah. Hey, you guys, compared to them, everybody I talk to is pretty normal, even members of my own family. But it's what this was a protest in front of a convention called United for Israel, which is a group of Christians and also some Jews.
Hey, Dan, you're breaking up a little bit on us. Are you moving around?
I didn't. I'm sort of in a bad area here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a little better. Now,
anyway,
we didn't hear your latest video was a protest, and I wanted our audience to hear where this protest was at.
Yeah, yes, it was in front of a convention center, the Washington, D.C. Convention Center, where they were holding the national convention for Christians United for Israel, which is a big supporter of Israel. There are a lot of conservatives who were speaking there. And the group Code Pink, which is a liberal protest group, I think they're all just professional protesters, decided they were going to hold their big anti-Israel rally there.
Now, Code Pink, Dan, if I remember, Code Pink comes from, what was her name?
Medea Benjamin.
Pardon me?
Is it Medea Benjamin is in charge of it now?
Okay. Well, wasn't Cindy Sheehan a part of it also? She lost her.
Who was that?
Cindy Sheehan?
She might have been back in the days of the Iraq War.
Right.
Might have had an integral part of them actually getting started. I don't believe she's part of it any longer, though.
Okay.
But yes, they're professional protesters. They do a lot of women's rights stuff, but they've spread out now into complaining of Israel, which they see as the aggressor in Gaza. And personally, I saw the flag around.
Hey, Dan, you know what? You're breaking up again. Hey, Dan, let's do this. We're going to take a real quick break, and can we call you back?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
So let's take a real quick break right now, and we'll get Dan Joseph back on the line. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, and around the world on the Internet. Don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night by calling 832-999-1199. Please check out our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com and ccrshow.com. Please don't go away. We're going to try to reconnect with Dan Joseph, staff correspondent and producer for MRC TV.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, the smiling coast I know, only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. And our guest this segment is Dan Joseph, staff correspondent, producer for MRC TV. Dan, now let's try this again. That's life and live radio. You know what I mean, buddy?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I must have been in the one part of the building where the NSA has a real cap on our communication system. So,
well, Dan, you know, we send them a tape of our show after each program, so there's no need for them to interfere with our conversations. I mean, gee, they hear.
I agree, but you know what? It's the government, so they're very inefficient. They probably don't even know about the tape. So,
all right. Well, Dan, we were talking about your latest video, and that's of your man on the street interviews with protesters at an anti-Israel protest outside the Christians United for Israel gathering in Washington, D.C. And Dan, tell our audience about some of the people you talked to.
Well, first of all, we went there and asked them a set of questions. The first question we asked them is, why do you think Israel is responsible for this? You know, why they didn't start it. They weren't the ones who fired the first missiles over at Israel on on June 28th. And they all mentioned sort of this conspiracy theory where they thought the Israeli government set up the kidnapping of these three young boys, teenagers, in order to start a fight. Then we asked them another very simple question. Is Hamas a terrorist organization? It is labeled as a terrorist organization by the United States and by Israel. It started as a terrorist organization. Most of them said no. They sort of justified it by saying, no, they're an elected government, therefore they're not a terrorist organization. Of course, Hitler was elected as a government official before he started World War II, so I wasn't really sure how that...
So is the KKK also elected their officials too, Dan?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's very true, and it doesn't really make a difference. You can still be a terrorist and be elected. Finally, what we asked them was, they always bring out the children, and they're bringing out all these children who have died and posting pictures of them. So what I asked them was, well, if there's proof that Hamas is using young children and women as human shields, and not only that, but the Israeli army, before they launch missiles, is warning these people who were in their homes with text messages and other instances of warnings to get out of there. And we asked them what they thought about Hamas using human shields, and they either said, well, that's a lie and it doesn't happen, or they found some around the way to justify it and say, well, look, they're casualties in war, or they can't run away, they're incapable of it. And it's that kind of intellectual dishonesty that really is defining the anti-Israel crowd these days.
Dan, one of the women that you interviewed I thought really was a piece of work. She was a woman that talked about how Israel or anyone should only fight others with equal-sized armies. And she was concerned about Israel bombing Parkville, Maryland. I guess it was Parkville, Maryland. And, what was it tell us about that interview, Dan.
Rockville, Maryland is a place.
Oh, by the way, has Rockville, Maryland fired any rockets into Israel lately?
Yeah, that was an interesting point she was trying to make. I'm still not sure where she was going with it, but yes, you know that everybody in the Middle East hates Israel. I mean, almost every Muslim government there despises Israel because they are Jewish and because they're on land that they believe that Muslims have a God-given right to. Mm-hmm. That being said, there is a unique, how do I put this without making it being too hard on these people?
Be hard on them, Dan. Be hard on them. They deserve it.
The woman who said, remind me what she said before. She said the Rockville thing, but she also said the thing about I'm drawing a blank here. What you just brought it up. You just mentioned it.
Well, I brought up the army, the size of the army. That countries should only fight armies that have equal size armies.
Right. Obviously, the reason why Israel still exists in that region is because they have this dynamic military that's so well trained and so well developed, and the rest of the countries in the region, they can't even get their stuff together enough to build their own military. They don't have a chance. Mm-hmm. But that's how Israel survives, and it's through the capitalist system. It's through their American-style military, and they have these advantages. But that doesn't mean they have to narrow down their military and take troops out of the field to give the Muslim nations a fighting chance. That really wouldn't make any sense. That's like a communist idea, isn't it? Well, we'll take some away from you, and then everything will be fair, and then we can duke it out from there. I don't really see how that works.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, I wanted to bring Sharon Engel into this conversation. Sharon Engel, the patriot from the battle-born state of Nevada. Sharon Engel, these protesters get more and more ridiculous all the time, but it worries me that they actually have the right to vote.
Well, of course, and they are voting. That's the sad part, and they're voting not just once, but several times in some cases, and casting their vote for dead people and going across state lines and changing parties. We're watching them do all kinds of strange things with our right to vote. But my question to Dan is these folks just don't seem to want you to confuse them with the facts. It seems like you give them facts and they're in great denial of facts. They have an agenda here that they're so married to that they really resist facts. Is there any hope for us that truth will conquer this? How do we reach people like this?
Well, I'm really glad you wrote. One of the things we did ask, this really much other good stuff put in there. One of the things we asked them was, where do you get your news? And why they get all this information somewhere, telling them that Israel is intentionally targeting civilians and they're killing all these little children on purpose and they're doing all this horrible stuff. And when they answered us, they would say, well, I get my news from Al Jazeera. Or I get...
Oh, my God.
Well, right. And a couple of them said that, or Democracy Now! It's the far left website.
Oh,
so that's why this is happening. They're not even going to places that even remotely resemble fair and balanced news coverage. I mean, forget Fox. If they were going to someplace like ABC, they'd be getting a better picture of what's going on there than they are now. So that's what it is. They're just not seeing both sides of the argument. And when you do, you get all the information about how Israel is warning people as to when they're going to be, where the bombs are dropping and when. And meanwhile, Hamas is using human shields to make it, to intentionally kill these children in order to use them as propaganda. But once you know that, the situation changes, and Hamas is simply indefensible when it comes to really knowing the facts of this situation.
So for those of us who encounter this mindset, and we do, you can run into it. It isn't just code pink. Some of this is in our own families, as you kind of alluded to in your free remarks here. That
they're not so bad. Don't worry.
Sometimes we can't even talk politics in our own family because our family members are not to be confused with the facts. How do we reach in and get facts to these folks, or do we just throw our hands up in despair and say, gosh, they're brain dead and there's nothing we can do?
Well, that's the wonderful thing about social media now, especially like Facebook, which my family is now just getting into the swing of things. You have the opportunity to send them articles that you want them to read, send them opinion pieces from Real Clear Politics, things that actually get the truth out to them, and everybody needs to do that. I mean, obviously, you saw what happened with Barack Obama in 2008, and how he made this Facebook thing central to his campaign, and every day there was new propaganda coming from the Obama administration, posted on everybody's wall, telling you how great he was and how he was going to change the world and lower the sea levels, and young people especially bought it. Well, conservatives have to fight back on this front, and they absolutely have to be proactive when it comes to posting things on people's walls and getting the information that needs. Well, you don't have to write the information. You don't have to come up with it yourself. You don't even have to enter into the debate once people start it on your thread. All you have to do is put the article up there, and people are going to see it. That's one of the things I love about doing what I do, especially when we go to these protests and we take these crazy people.
Hey, Dan, you know what interests me about your latest video? And by the way, give out the website where our listeners can see the video.
Yeah, a couple of different places. MRCTV.org and CNSnews.com are the two places they can see it. It's also on the Blaze, on Town Hall right now. Yeah. It's been pretty much everywhere, this particular one. But CNSnews.com is the most is the place that they should go first, because it's definitely going to be right out there. But
Dan, what interested me about this video is the people that you spoke with that had foreign accents, who are saying that the United States was as much of a terrorist country as Israel. Dan, why didn't you ask these people, what the hell are they doing here if they don't like it so much?
Well, yeah, and I did. And they said, well, this is the only place where we can beat it to change it. And I said, okay, wait a minute. You feel, obviously these people live in enough safety and have enough confidence in themselves that they can, live without fear of the government cracking down on them and making it. That's a big benefit that I don't think they have in the Palestinian territories or throughout most of the Muslim world. So that right there is kind of ironic. I don't know how they get this mindset. They've sort of believed that the United States is this imperialist nation that has bad intentions and takes over places and wants to, ethnically cleanse the world. I'm not even sure what they think, but, that rhetoric goes a little too far. But I think they really lose credibility when they say things like that. I mean, we know, even if you disagree with your government entirely in this country, which we have the right to do, you know that they're not terrorists. You know our government isn't a terrorist organization like Al-Qaeda or Hamas that's targeting civilians and trying to blow them up and putting human shields in hospitals to protect weaponry. We know that's not the case. So when you bring it to that level, I think your credibility goes completely away. And, I just want to expose it that there are actually people who think that way.
Hey, Dan, did you notice in this latest video how many of these people that you interviewed look like the worn-out, drugged-out, ridden hard and put away wet hippies from the 1960s? Did you notice that? Did you tell them the 60s are calling and they need to go back?
I don't think I'm trying not to judge their appearance.
Wait, see, Dan, you're a lot nicer guy than I am.
Well,
you are, because, I watch these videos. You're so nice to these people, and that's why I would need bail money. Because I'd get...
Even I lose my stuff sometimes. You should see, there were a couple of fights I got into. I didn't have time to put them up on the...
Oh, I wish you would.
So, maybe
the best of Dan Joseph.
play them on the air.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, we got to run, but always love having you on. And please tell our audience one more time where they can go to see all your videos.
Well, one of the places to go is at DanJoseph78. That's my Twitter feed. I put up the videos multiple times on there. Also, CNS.com and MRCTV.org are the two other places you can see them all the time.
All right, Dan Joseph, Media Research Center, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rick.
Always have fun with you, buddy. Great way to end the week. Hey, Sharon, we got about 2 minutes. I know there was a little bit more that you wanted to say about the goings-on in Alaska in that Senate race.
Yes, I did. I wanted to mention that the other candidate who's running in that race, another Republican, we have a three-way primary there, is the Attorney General, Dan Sullivan. And 12 days after his office, the Attorney General released a child molester who actually molested a small child and killed his grandparents, was released. 12 hours later, he did the same thing. He reoffended. So we have just a lackadaisical fellow, I guess you would say, someone who really doesn't get tough on crime at all, letting guys go that are going to reoffend within 12 hours. It's just amazing what we've got. So our PAC and actually the National Federation of Republican Assemblies through the Alaska Republican Assembly have endorsed Joe Miller, because these other two guys obviously haven't got a clue what it means to be a true conservative constitutionalist, tough on crime, and aware of our need to have protections in this country.
Hey, Sharon, we only got about 30 seconds. We really need to get Joe Miller back on the show. Maybe we can bring him on. Maybe you can make that call, get him on next week for us.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
All right. Hey, Sharon, with that, we're up against the clock. We got to go. Don't forget, in 2 minutes, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show, please log on to CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And at 9 p.m. tonight, you can hear a rebroadcast of our show at VigilantLibertyRadio.us. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next week on the radio. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.